Now, before I go further, I just would like to understand who are all the people in this room who understand or have once heard the word NDC. Can you please raise your hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so fairly good number. Thank you very much. For those of you who have not, NDC stands for New Distribution Capability. Now, this is an initiative by IATA. We'll talk a little bit about it in a second, which actually helps airline embrace new technologies on how they want to distribute their products across the globe. Before we start, a brief word. Myself, my name is Manish Shrivastava. I work for a company called Commerce Solutions. Me and my colleague, Peter Schmid, who's just walking here. Peter, can you raise your hand, please? We are the co-founders of Commerce Solutions. We have extensive years of experience in the aviation, working for Swissair, Lufthansa Group, HP, different, always related to aviation, however. And we have been following the industry for the last 50 years, and ourselves working for the last 30 years, looking at what's going on. And I think it was time to look at some changes, some new, and I think IATA has done very good by starting this initiative. So I'll come back to what are we going to talk about today. So just briefly, a little recap. We're going to look at the distribution landscape, just very briefly. For those of you who have less idea or have little knowledge on this area, it is just to recap. Also, I see a few familiar faces from last time, but I'm not sure how many of you were last time here. Can you please raise your hand and show me who was here last time? 4 or 5 of you, great. So I'm going to recap what we did last year, so please bear with me, or those who were there last time. And I'm going to just run you through, and then we talk about how e-commerce can help us going forward. We'll look at IATA's initiative. We'll look at what is the whole concept of merchandising. Why exactly are we talking about NDC? T-commerce, that's our product, which we have built. It's from Commerce Solutions. We're going to not talk about the product per se, but we're going to talk about the concepts of e-commerce, what we have borrowed and why it makes sense to work with NDC and e-commerce. We're going to talk about the advantages and something which maybe some of you may have heard. Maybe I can ask again, anybody here who has heard about IATA's initiative on one order? Anybody? Raise your hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, Peter, I'm not going to count you. Okay. So I see that there is, of course, lack of this information spread, especially more so in Africa, and that's also one of the primary reasons why we are here, because we believe there is a lot of education which is also required here. So without much more discussion, let's straight jump into what we did last time. Most of you probably already know, at least if not the whole landscape, you definitely know that there are different players in the market today and how an airline can distribute or sell their product. Basically, it starts all by airline creating their schedules, filing it with OAG or Innovata. Then they have to file their fares based on their availability. And at the end, when a customer approaches a travel agent requests that to one of the primary GDSs, we call them Global Distribution Systems, who prepare this offer for the travel agent. What they do is they pick up information about what the customer is looking for, when the customer wants to fly, look at the schedule, which are the airlines which are flying, take these airlines, contact with these airlines, ask them which seats are available, try to find which is the appropriate price for the seat, and then prepare the product. So as you can see, while I'm explaining that it's not a very straightforward method, but it is something which has been happening for the last more than 40, 50 years. We have a couple of representations from GDSs here. Namely, we have colleagues from Sabre and Travelport. I'm not sure if anybody here from Amadeus or Travel Sky. Probably not. All right. So this is what is happening today. And what IATA felt that actually going forward, as more and more airlines are proposing their products over their website, and I'm sure most of you have already experienced that you go and look at an airline website, you see certain products which you can buy. I mean, the more classic ones maybe most of you have seen is like a basic fare or a flex or a low-cost fare. Exactly. differentiation they sell, it is difficult to find those products very easily when you are talking to your travel agent. So there is already a lot of challenge between how a product should be brought into in the travel agency community. So in order to keep keeping that problem in mind, and also seeing the general trend which the airlines are doing in order to go towards e-commerce, IATA came up with the concept of new distribution capability together with the concept of offer management and order management system. What it basically means is that the airline does not distribute particularly their fares, their availability, and their schedules, but rather when there is a request, the request is sent to the airline, and the airline can say, based on their calculation, their computation, what products they want to offer. Now, it doesn't really stop at just having a schedule. Rather, you can say which kind of products you're offering. So let's say there is a low-cost carrier which says, I offer no frills. It's a simple, you just get one handbag, and you have a seat, and you'll get up maybe a cup of coffee, and that's it. Whereas there is another airline which is flying the same route and has, let's say, allows 2 bags and offers you a small snack, and for example, so differentiates their offering. You can have then, once this system is implemented, as a customer, you have the ability to request only those airlines for an offer where you think it makes sense for your product need. So you don't have to ask somebody to give you a no-frill cost when you know that you're traveling with 2 big bags and you would like an amount or what you will pay for the ticket, including that 2 bags. So that's going to a specific example. And idea is that once that is made, today's technology does not enable so easy communication of all this information about how many bags are allowed, how are the seats, what kind of meals you're going to offer, etc. So this is all very easily possible, or that the reason why IATA came and implemented or discussed about NDC is for the airlines to have the ability to share this product information to different providers. How do exactly we go there? Now, before we there, just briefly for you as an information, probably not very interesting to read through that, but basically just to bring you to the point where IATA's standpoint. IATA's standpoint is they are giving us a standard which is based on XML. Now, for those of you who are more from the technology background, maybe it makes more sense, but for those who are not, it doesn't matter. What is important is today we have one way of communication, and IATA is proposing a new way of communication, and in this new way of communication, you have the ability to provide much more information about your product. As it says, you have product differentiation. That means you can start to show how your product is different than your competitor. You can start putting some nice pictures. These days, with all you on your mobiles, on the website, pictures and videos, they have become very common. And this is something which the airlines can also use to impress the customer about their product. And going forward, what IATA realized is that today we have quite a lot of complex processes when it comes to PNR, tickets, and EMD. Now, maybe these are jargons for some of you, but most of you probably know that when you travel, you buy a ticket. Normally now, nobody has a paper ticket. Everybody has electronic ticket. I'm sure most of you have still printed it, and that was probably not the purpose of e-ticket, but we'll discuss that later. But important thing is it's electronic. That means you have all the information within the system, and effectively, you could just walk up to wherever you wanted to go to discuss about this ticket, tell them your name and your destination, and they should be able to find you through your electronic ticket information. Now, having that and the passenger name record, a file where it says what your journey is about, where are you traveling, when are you traveling, and who's traveling with you, and if you have made any special requests, etc. This is all in a passenger name record. So IATA decided to take a step further and said, we're going to borrow the concepts of e-commerce, which has actually, for most of you, as you know, has greatly evolved in the last 10 to 15 years. And they have very good best practices, something which you can easily take and use it for yourself in the airline industry. So what IATA said that we're going to go one step further, and we're going to start thinking about why do we really need a PNR ticket and an EMD. EMD is an electronic miscellaneous document which actually you get if you tend to buy something after you have purchased your ticket. So basically, IATA said, let's put it all together, put it in one basket or bucket or however you like to call it, and we will call it an order. Now, order is something which maybe some of you have experienced while doing some purchasing online on any of these big, like Amazon or any parallel e-commerce provider, where you can buy, for example, a book, you can buy a DVD, you can buy any different kind of product, but they all come in your basket. They are all in your shopping basket, and they are all in one place. And that's the challenge in today's industry, that the airlines do not have all the information in one place. They have a PNR, they have a ticket, they have an EMD. So IATA wanted to go further and say, look, we want to now move into one order. And these are the changes which IATA is proposing. All this actually leads to the question, why? Why are we doing this? Now, last year also we talked about, there is something about merchandising. I think many people got, in the beginning, when the low-cost carrier started, got the feeling that, okay, now I can fly for very cheap. That's very good, actually, excellent. But what happened as a result of that was that the requirements of the people also went down. Earlier, when you bought a ticket, you basically went with all your bags and everything, and you checked the bags, you went, you sat, you got a meal if it was a longer flight. Everything was part of it. But then people realized that when low-cost carriers came and said, okay, I'm going to only allow one bag, and if you want to bring the second bag, you have to pay for it. Or when they said, you're going to take a carry-on bag, but it's just going to cost you extra because we have limitation on the overhead space in the aircraft. Or if you want to eat something on the plane, you're going to pay for it. So, of course, everybody was happy on one way that they could fly for cheap, but on the other side, they were also probably willing to pay something for which they felt the need of it. So merchandising concept comes from the fact that what is the product which is for me? When I am traveling, what is important for me? It may not be the same thing what is important for you. So it's very important to identify the right product. You have to also start to identify people, because today in e-commerce it's very easy. You can very easily identify who is the person, because the person usually, if they are willing, they will log into your system. Especially we are now talking about an electronic communication, electronic medium like internet booking engine. The person will identify, so you know whom I'm talking to. So you can already try to manage your offer towards this person. Timing is also getting important, because if I am sitting on my sofa 3 months before I have to fly somewhere, my mindset is quite different than if there is a person who just missed their flight at the airport because their meeting went for long. So the needs are different. So you can react as an airline, you can react differently as soon as you know what is the timing of this person. When does the person want to have an offer from me? And last but not the least, very important is the price. How much is a person willing to pay for that ticket? Now, I know it may sound a little bit bad for the end customer, and most of you are end customer, but at the same time, you're also airlines, and you have revenue management, and you would like to make sure that you make sufficient revenue. Now, I don't have to repeat what you just heard before, that airlines are not making profit. And the reason for that is probably there is either not enough scope for revenue management, either there is overcapacity, either there are reasons why the state maybe is governing the price what the airline can charge to the customer. Now, whatever the reason may be, you can still work on it once you know and you have the ability to find the right price for your customer. Are we all together so far? Or am I, because I'm higher up, everything is going above your head? No? It's like Matrix, you know, you do this Matrix thing, all the bullets flying around, no? Okay, so if you're still with me, I'm very happy. Even if you're lying, it's okay, I'll take it. So what we thought, and I was introducing you Peter before, now he's sitting here, we wanted to have a nice picture of mine, that Peter and I, we got together and we said, you know, this is an excellent idea. IATA is already proposing this, so what can we do in order to help make life easier for the airlines? How can we bring the advantages of e-commerce into the airline world. And so thus came the concept travel commerce, so T-commerce. One of the biggest, or let's say here I have listed 3 of the biggest challenges. There are quite a lot of challenges today how the airline can actually prepare their product and sell it over different channels. Now, one of the biggest is their products. We talked about it before that, you know, some of you who might know fares. Anybody in the room who knows a little bit about fares? 1, 2, okay, not many. So fares are basically something which an airline decides and creates for what they would like to charge their customer or what they would like their customer to pay when they bought a particular seat on their flight to a particular destination on a particular date. Now, this is something which the airlines prepare, and if you remember the earlier slide when I showed about the current process, you probably saw the name called ATPCO. That's a company in the United States which collects all this information from all the airlines in the world and then can distribute it, for example, to the GDSs, to the travel agents, whoever wants it. This information now is getting more and more complex because of what I spoke earlier. That means if I want to come with 1 bag or 2, whether I want to eat something in the plane or not, whether I would like to go through priority check-in or not, and as more and more airlines also start to introduce now Wi-Fi so you can be connected and continue to work, whether I would like to have Wi-Fi or not. All these different little components, merchandising components, are getting difficult to communicate by just using fares. And so our idea was, or actually the concept of e-commerce, to borrow, is that you create products and your product has a price. Basically, you can say, okay, you want to have a bag on the plane because this is something that's going to help you carry something. Okay, it's going to cost you X amount of money. Or you want to take this little instrument because it helps you play the video inside the plane. Sure, it's going to cost you so much. So everything starts to have a price. And then it becomes easier for you to start working with creating your product. I mean, there is also a concept in the industry called bundles. Bundle means you try to put different little products together and you make a bundle and you sell it. You can also, for some of you who come from tour operating business, might know that's what you do when you create a tour. You have, for example, here in Rwanda, you want to go visit gorillas, you would need a transfer from the airport to the hotel, from hotel to the gorilla trek, you will need a guide. You would go there up, you'll come down, maybe there is somebody who's taking pictures. All these little components, these are different little products which you kind of put together and you sell it like a package. So you can call it a package or you call it a bundle. So what happens is that when you use e-commerce, it simplifies your processes of today, which the complexity of fares, availability, and you are able to easily create your products and sell it. What happens at the same time is that by using new technologies, and something which also IATA is proposing strongly, is that you tend to, when you create your offer management system, you speak the same language to everybody. So today, as I was telling, if you call a travel agent and the travel agent is using a particular system, for example, Sabre or Travelport, and they look at the screen and they will look at what the products are, that is usually different than what you will go when you will see it at the website of the airline. So in order for this to be consistent across the board, the idea is that you distribute exactly the same information using the new technology to everybody. So be it your GDS, be it your travel agent, be it an online travel agent, it can be also your meta search engines, whoever you want to talk to actually gets to see the same information. And last but not the least, today everything is reactive in terms of the price, because the airlines needs to sit down and think, what's going to happen tomorrow? Okay, if tomorrow this happens, that's the price I'm going to charge. What's going to happen day after tomorrow? So if you can imagine, there is a whole lot of process, and without naming any airlines here, having worked with different airlines, we are talking about millions of fares which people have to file, which airlines have to file, in order to be able to get the right revenue from the passenger. By offering this direct product along with the price, the e-commerce infrastructure enables you to do dynamic pricing. And by dynamic pricing, I mean you as an airline have exactly at that point when the customer made a request to decide what price to charge. based on various parameters which you might want to use. For example, how is last year's revenue? How is the forecast looking like? What events are happening? What happened today? Everything. You take a real-time snapshot of what's going on, and you make a price. So that's a big advantage when we move towards the new technology solutions. Now, all that is very fine, great, but why are we doing it? So this is slide here. I'm just trying to show you that it's not about you, me, or any particular set of people, but globally, people have realized that there is a need to ask the customer to pay for which the customer feels the need of it. So you can see that it's 10%, almost reaching 10% of the total airline revenue, which comes from ancillaries. Now, ancillaries, if the word is new for you, these are the prices or the charge for little units of things which you buy on top of your ticket. For example, if you're going to take an extra bag, or if you want an extra meal, or you want to use the lounge, even though it's not part of your product, etc. So all these little things which you buy over and above your ticket is actually part of the ancillary revenue. So it's a substantial number. So even if, as an airline, we say, okay, you know, we have had these processes for all these years, it has worked perfectly fine. Why do you want to shake a boat which is floating, or why do you want to put a cog in the wheel, or you can use any, I'm sure there are some sayings also in Africa, that you don't want to stop something which is moving fine. But the tendency and the reaction of the people already shows that there is a need in the market for having the right product. And using e-commerce, coming back, it kind of really simplifies things. So just following up from the previous slide, the one before the results which I showed you on the financial side, it's basically really as simple as that. You have an idea, you want to sell something, you come back to your office, and you decide on the product, define it, put a price. You want to put a static price or a dynamic price. You create everything, and there you go. You can start selling. Advantages. When you do that, when you use e-commerce, first and foremost is because we are simplifying a lot of airline business processes at the back end, your costs starts to reduce. You have the ability to save costs. Now, I think this is very important for you to understand that today, not only do you have costs of running a certain application with fares, with inventory revenue management, but you have also a tremendous cost of education. Now, the difference here is that if you look at Europe, then there are quite a lot of skilled resources, and it's easy to find. You have in Africa, you have a bigger challenge. You first don't find the right resources. You need to go look for resources everywhere. So when you simplify a process, you are actually making it easier for people from university students or people who are also from different lines of business to quickly learn and support you in your back office. So that's already a big advantage. Of course, we have talked about ancillaries and the revenues, so needless to say, there is a tremendous opportunity to charge the customer for what the customer feels the value for and is willing to pay. And last, and one of the most important thing, is about personalization. So today, given the way booking process takes place, it's very difficult for any airline to make a personalized offer. So for example, for me, if I log in and I say, I am Manish, and I would like to fly from Zurich to Kigali for this event, please give me an offer. Most likely, 99.9% chances are that they don't care who I am. They probably have maybe because if I am a frequent flyer member, and if I have a number, they will ask for it probably towards the end when the booking is already finished. That means the offer was already made, the booking was created, the ticket is probably going to be issued because I have made the payment. But my frequent flyer number is just something, they will keep it, because once I have flown, they will say, okay, Manish flew, so maybe we give him some points. But there is let's say, very few possibility for airlines to make an offer to you as a person when you request for the offer. And that's the advantage of e-commerce and the technology, that when you log in or when you request through new interfaces like NDC XML, that the airline then has the ability to say, okay, I recognize Manish. I think he was there last year. He wants to go again this year. Let me give him a proposal which he would really like, instead of him losing to another airline who also flies to Kigali. So these are some definite advantages of the using e-commerce. Now, something which I'm really sorry that I should have had the ability to test everything, but unfortunately not. And do we have something to show? No. Anyway, maybe if you don't mind, you can stop by. We are on booth 4. We can show you a little bit more in detail. What I'm trying to show here is the last thing is all about one order and how things could effectively look. Like today, as I said, if you go to an e-commerce platform like Amazon, you buy something, you can go and look in one web page. You will see you bought a book, you bought a CD, you bought a DVD, etc. It's all in one place. And similarly, here I have a seat, I'm taking one bag, I'm going to get one meal, etc. Whatever you bought, different things, and at different points, and I have a gorilla tour, I have a taxi transfer from my home, everything what you bought, which actually were independent products, is all in one bucket. So with that, I'll leave you to ponder over these new changes. As I said, we are here in stand 4. Come by. We can explain you a little bit more in detail if you're interested. We can also show you a little bit more in detail these slides, and especially about one order, how it looks like. And before I close, I would like to ask anybody who's here, John, with respect to time, how am I doing? Is there a time for Q&A, or shall we close it? No. I'm so sorry, but please, we can stop by and ask questions anytime. Thank you very much for your patience.